Midnight Echoes.
I've lived in upstate New York my whole life, so I'm used to snow. I know how to drive in it, I know how to dress for it, and I know that when the weatherman says blizzard warning, you stay inside. But I was 22, stupid, and trying to get to my girlfriend's house for New Year's Eve. It was December 31st, 2019. The forecast called for 2 feet of snow overnight. My parents told me to stay put, but I hopped in my 2010 Honda Civic and headed out anyway. It was usually a 40-minute drive. About halfway there, the main highway was a parking lot. Accidents, spin-outs, red taillights stretching for miles. I pulled up Google Maps, and it offered a faster route that saved 20 minutes by cutting through the back roads near the state forest. I took it without thinking. The first 10 minutes were fine, but as I got deeper into the woods, the road conditions deteriorated rapidly. The pavement turned to gravel, and the plow trucks clearly hadn't touched this area in hours. The snow was falling so hard it was hypnotic, just a wall of white rushing at the windshield. Then the inevitable happened. I hit a patch of black ice on a sharp curve. The car didn't spin. It just slid, slowly and helplessly, sideways. I went off the shoulder and crunched nose first into a deep, frozen drainage ditch. I tried to reverse, but the wheels just spun, whining high-pitched against the ice. I was stuck. I checked my phone. No service. Panic started to set in. It was 10 p.m. I was miles from the main road, surrounded by dense forest, and the temperature was dropping to single digits. I decided to stay in the car and run the engine intermittently to stay warm. About an hour passed. The snow was piling up on the hood. I was starting to doze off, which I knew was dangerous, when I saw lights in the rearview mirror. A truck was coming down the road. Relief washed over me. I turned on my dome light and waved frantically. The vehicle slowed down and pulled up alongside my ditch. It was an old, rusted-out pickup truck. It had a homemade wooden plow attached to the front, and the bed was filled with scrap metal and junk. The engine idled loudly, a chugging, unhealthy sound. The window rolled down. The driver was a heavy-set man, maybe in his 50s, wearing a thick hunter orange cap and a dirty Carhartt jacket. He didn't smile. Stuck, he grunted.
His voice was gravelly.
Yeah, I shouted over the wind. I slid on the ice. Can you give me a tow? Or maybe a ride to town? He looked at my car, then up and down the empty, dark road. Don't have a chain, he lied. I could see a heavy-duty chain clearly coiled in the bed of his truck through his rear window. But I can give you a ride. Hop in. Something felt off. My gut tightened. Why lie about the chain? Actually, I have AAA coming, I lied back. I just need to wait. He stared at me. His eyes were dark and unblinking in the cab light. Phone signal's dead out here, kid. No AAA is coming. You're gonna freeze to death. Get in the truck. It wasn't an offer anymore. It was a command. I'm good, really, I said, locking my door. He stared at me for another long, uncomfortable moment. Then, without a word, he rolled up his window and drove off. I watched his taillights fade into the whiteout. I felt guilty for a second. Maybe he was just a grumpy local trying to help. 20 minutes later, the lights reappeared. He was coming back. But this time, he didn't pull up next to me. He stopped his truck about 50 yards behind my car, blocking the road. He turned off his headlights, but left the engine running. I watched him in my rearview mirror, illuminated only by my own brake lights. He got out of the truck. He was holding something long and metallic. A tire iron. He didn't walk toward my car. He walked to the edge of the woods, disappearing into the tree line behind my car. My heart started hammering. He wasn't leaving. He was circling. I turned off my car lights, plunging myself into darkness. I wanted to be invisible. I grabbed the only weapon I had, an ice scraper. I sat there in the dark, freezing, listening. The wind howled, masking any footsteps. Crunch. A sound of snow compressing right next to my passenger door. I held my breath.
Tap, tap, tap.
Something hard tapped against the passenger window glass. I didn't move. Then the tapping moved to the rear window. Then the driver's side window. He was walking circles around my car, tapping the glass with the tire iron, testing me, waiting for me to scream or open the door. "I know you're in there." His voice came from right outside my door. It was muffled by the snow and glass, but it was calm. "Engine's getting cold. You gotta come out eventually." He was right. The car was turning into an icebox. For 2 hours, this cat-and-mouse game continued. He would disappear into the woods, silence would fall, and then wham. He would slam the tire iron against the trunk or the hood, jolting me awake. He was trying to terrorize me into leaving the vehicle. Around 3 a.m., I saw blue lights flashing in the distance, reflecting off the low clouds. A state trooper was slowly making his way down the road, probably checking for stranded drivers. I laid on my horn. Honk, honk, honk. I saw a shadow sprint from the side of my car back toward the truck parked 50 yards back. The truck roared to life. Headlights flicked on, and it peeled out in reverse, spinning around and disappearing down a side trail before the cop got close. The trooper found me shivering and terrified. I told him everything. He followed the truck's tire tracks down the side trail for about a mile, but they ended at an old logging road that was impassable for the cruiser. They never found the guy, but the trooper told me something that keeps me up at night. When they examined the snow around my car, they found footprints, but not just circling the car. There were footprints leading to the back of the car, right by the tailpipe. The snow had been dug out. The guy had stuffed a rag into my exhaust pipe. He wasn't trying to get me to come out. He was trying to make sure that if I turned the engine on to stay warm, carbon monoxide would fill the cabin and put me to sleep, so he could take me without a fight. I grew up in a house that backed right up to a massive cornfield in rural Iowa. In the winter, that field became a flat, endless ocean of white. It was beautiful, but at night, it was dead silent. I was 14. It was a snow day, so school was canceled. My parents both worked at the local hospital and had been called in for double shifts due to the ice storm, so I was home alone with my little brother, Timmy, who is 8. We spent the afternoon playing video games and ignoring the blizzard outside. By 5 p.m., the sun had set, and the world outside turned that eerie shade of deep blue before going pitch black. Timmy was looking out the sliding glass door in the kitchen while I made mac and cheese. "Cool," Timmy said. "When did Dad build a snowman?" I stirred the pasta. "Dad's at work, Timmy. He didn't build a snowman." "Someone did," Timmy insisted. "It's huge." I walked over to the sliding door and looked out. The backyard light wasn't on, but the reflection from the kitchen spilled out onto the snow. Sure enough, about 30 feet from the house, right at the edge where the yard met the cornfield, there was a snowman. It was tall, maybe 6 feet. It was crude, lumpy, and oddly shaped. It didn't have a hat or a scarf or a carrot nose. It was just 3 large, irregular balls of snow stacked on top of each other. Maybe the neighbor kids did it, I said, though our nearest neighbor was a half-mile away. I shrugged it off and closed the curtains. We ate dinner. Around 7 p.m., I went back to the kitchen to get a drink. I peeked through the curtain again, just out of habit. My stomach dropped. The snowman was closer. Before, it had been at the edge of the field. Now, it was squarely in the middle of the yard, maybe 15 feet from the deck. I rubbed my eyes. I'm remembering it wrong, I told myself. It was always there. But something else was wrong. The snowman didn't look packed. It looked loose, like someone had just piled snow loosely over a frame. And it was facing the house. I locked the sliding door. I checked the deadbolt twice. "Timmy, stay in the living room," I called out. I turned off the kitchen lights so I could see out better without the reflection. I crouched by the door and watched. For 10 minutes, nothing moved. The wind whipped snow around the lump in the yard. Then, the snowman shivered. It wasn't the wind. The top ball of snow, the head, rotated slightly to the left, then to the right, as if it was scanning the windows. I realized with horrifying clarity that it wasn't a snowman. It was a person in a white ghillie suit or white coveralls covered in fresh snow. They were crouching or standing perfectly still, waiting for us to stop looking. I grabbed the landline phone to call 911. The line was dead. The storm must have knocked down a pole. I grabbed my cell phone. 1 bar of service. I dialed. The call failed. I ran into the living room. "Timmy, we're playing a game. We need to go upstairs to Mom and Dad's room and hide in the closet.
Now."
Timmy saw my face and didn't argue. We ran upstairs. I locked the master bedroom door, pushed the dresser in front of it, and we huddled in the walk-in closet. I sat there in the dark, clutching a baseball bat, listening. For a long time, there was only the wind. Then, from downstairs, crash. The sound of the sliding glass door shattering. The cold air rushed into the house. I could feel the draft even upstairs. Then, heavy, wet footsteps on the hardwood floor.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
They weren't moving fast. They were slow, deliberate steps. They walked into the living room, then the kitchen. Then the footsteps started coming up the stairs. I held my breath, tears streaming down my face, hand over Timmy's mouth. The footsteps reached the landing. They stopped right outside the bedroom door. I saw the doorknob slowly turn. It hit the lock. Then, a heavy weight slammed against the door. The dresser I had pushed in front of it scraped an inch across the floor.
Slam.
Again. Slam. The wood of the door frame cracked. Then silence. I heard a sound that chilled me more than the banging. It was a soft, wet thud against the door. Then a sliding sound, like someone had leaned against the door and slid down to a sitting position. He was just sitting there, right outside the room, waiting. We stayed in that closet for 6 hours. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. When the sun came up, I heard a car pull into the driveway. It was my parents. I heard the front door open and my mom scream when she saw the shattered glass. I burst out of the closet, moved the dresser, and ran downstairs. The hallway was empty, but outside the bedroom door, on the carpet, was a puddle of melted snow. And in the puddle lay a large, serrated hunting knife. The police arrived and followed the tracks. The footprints went from the yard into the house, up the stairs, and then into the attic. The hatch in the hallway ceiling was slightly ajar. When the SWAT team went up there, the attic was empty, but they found a vent that had been kicked out, leading to the roof. He had been in the attic while we were hiding in the closet. He had listened to the police sirens coming, which I couldn't hear, and escaped across the roof just as my parents pulled in. To this day, I can't look at a snowman without feeling sick. I always wonder how long he was standing in the yard, covered in snow, watching us play video games before he decided to move. I work as a winter caretaker for a large ski lodge in Colorado. During the season, it's packed. But in late March, when the season ends, everyone leaves. The roads are closed, the power is cut to the grid, we run on generators, and I'm the only person on the mountain for 2 weeks to close everything down. It's a massive building, 4 stories of timber and glass, surrounded by 10 feet of snowpack. It's usually peaceful, but last year was different. It was the 3rd night of my shift. A late-season blizzard hammered the mountain, dumping another 2 feet of snow. The wind was so loud it shook the beams of the lodge. I was in the main lobby, which has these massive, 30-foot floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the slopes. I was doing my rounds, checking the fire alarms. I walked past the windows and stopped. The lodge is built on a slope. The main lobby is technically the 2nd floor. The ground outside drops away steeply. The windows are usually 20 feet off the ground. But because of the massive snowdrifts against the building, the snow was piled high, about 10 feet up the glass. Pressed against the glass, right at the top of the snowdrift, was a handprint. I shined my flashlight on it. It was fresh. The heat from the hand had melted the frost on the outside of the pane slightly. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a climber? A lost skier? I put on my gear and went out the side maintenance door to check. The wind nearly knocked me over. I trudged through the waist-deep snow around the building to the front windows. There were no tracks. The wind was blowing hard, so maybe they covered up? But to leave a handprint that high up, someone would have to be standing on top of the snowdrift. I looked up. The roof of the lodge overhangs the windows by about 5 feet. There were tracks on the roof. I could see them from where I stood. Deep post holes in the snow on the roof, leading right to the edge, directly above the window. Someone had lowered themselves down from the roof, pressed their hand against the glass to look inside, and then pulled themselves back up. I ran back inside and locked the maintenance door. I grabbed the lodge's emergency shotgun from the office. I sat in the lobby, staring at the ceiling. The lodge has a massive attic space that runs the length of the building. Access is from a hatch on the 4th floor. Thump. It came from the ceiling. Heavy. Unmistakable. Thump. 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 Footsteps running across the roof. Then silence. I waited an hour. Then I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. The elevator chimed.
Ding.
The lodge elevators were shut down. I had killed the breaker myself on day 1. I looked at the elevator panel above the lobby doors. The arrow was lit. It was moving. Floor 4. Floor 3. Floor 2. It was coming to the lobby. I aimed the shotgun at the elevator doors. My hands were shaking. How is it moving? The power is off. The elevator didn't stop at the lobby. It kept going. Floor 1. Basement. It went to the basement. The basement connects to the underground garage and the generator room. The generator. The lights in the lodge flickered. Then they died. Total blackness. The intruder knew exactly where to go. They had bypassed the locks, entered through the roof vents, engaged the manual override on the elevator service mode, which works on emergency power, and went straight to the basement to kill the lights. I was blind in a 40,000 square foot building with someone who knew the layout better than I did. I didn't try to find them. I barricaded myself in the security office, which has a steel reinforced door. I watched the monitors, running on backup battery. Most cameras were black, but the basement camera switched to infrared was working. I watched the screen. A figure walked past the generator. It wasn't a human shape I recognized. It was crawling on all fours, but moving fast like an insect. It was wearing tattered ski gear, an old 1980s neon ski suit that was shredded to ribbons. It stopped at the camera. It looked up. The face was frostbitten black, the nose missing. It smiled at the camera. Then it reached up and crushed the lens. Static. I spent the next 2 days in that office with the shotgun pointed at the door. I heard scratching on the steel. I heard the elevator moving up and down, endlessly chiming on every floor. When the snowplows finally broke through the road on day 4 and the relief crew arrived, the lodge was silent. The power was still out. We searched the building. We found a nest in the attic ventilation shaft. Old bones, stolen food wrappers from decades ago, and a collection of driver's licenses from skiers who had gone missing on the mountain over the last 20 years. The police think it was a homeless man living in the ventilation system. But I saw the way that thing moved on the camera.
No human moves like that.
And no human survives in an unheated attic at 10,000 feet for 20 years. I quit the job. I don't ski anymore.